Here's the word of the Lord. It says, and a woman of Samaria came and drew water. Jesus said to her, give me a drink. For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, how is it you, being a Jew, would ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. Jesus answered and said to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is and who says to you, give me to drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Somebody say living water. The woman said to him, sir, you have nothing to draw with and the well is deep. How then do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well and drank from it himself as well as his sons and his livestock? Jesus answered and said, whosoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whosoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But that water that I shall give him shall become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. The woman said to him, sir, give me this water that I may not thirst, and more importantly, come here to draw. Jesus said to her, go and call your husband and come here. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, you have well said, I have no husband. For you have had 5 of them. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5. You one short of a half dozen. And the one whom you now have is not your husband. So you've crossed over and you went from adultery to fornication. You've jumped out of the pot into the fire. Let me read on. The Bible says that once he said that, he said, the one you're with now is not your husband. And that you spoke the truth. The woman said to him, sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Oh, now you want to get spiritual. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and you say the Jews say that Jerusalem is the place where one ought to worship. Jesus said to her, listen, woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour is coming, and now is, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. And the Father, for the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. John 4, 7 through 24. Psalms 21, 1 and 2 simply says this: as the deer panteth for streams of water, so my soul pants for you. My God, my thirst, my soul thirsts. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. Where can I go and meet with God? Where can I go and meet with him? Where can I go and meet with God? My soul thirsts. I am panting because I've been running. I am panting because I've been searching. I am panting because I've been in hot pursuit. I'm panting because I'm going after that which my soul does desire. I am panting, and I've come to the place where I'm exhausted. But my soul yet still cries out for what my flesh cannot contain. And my soul still wants him, but my flesh then got tired. I wonder if I'm speaking to anybody whose soul still desires him, but your flesh has gotten weak. He says, the psalmist says, where can I go and meet with God? Thus far, the scripture. I just want to share a couple things with you. I want to share a couple things with you concerning this topic. And there's a question. It comes in the form of a question. I love Westminster Catechism and how that dialogue takes place, and the dialogue and the method in which is individuals are learn is the method of questions. So in the Westminster Catechism, they are questions that are posed. So today I pose a question to you, if you allow me to use that method of teaching. I pose this question to you: are you thirsty? Are you thirsty? Would you like something to drink? Are you thirsty? It's interesting because this woman in which you and I are well acquainted with, because this text is a familiar text. This woman is a sinner. She is both an adulterer and a fornicator. She is exposed. She is exposed. I want you to understand that she is exposed. I know this because she comes to the fountain. She comes to the well at a time frame where all the other people have now come and gone. They've come and they've left. She comes at the hottest moment of the day because that is the moment that most people would have vacated the well by the end because it's too hot. And so she comes now because she's exposed. She's exposed because she's done some stuff. She's exposed because she doesn't want people to be there, because she don't want them to see her nakedness. She's exposed in this matter. It doesn't matter how well you dress. When you're exposed, you're naked. It doesn't matter how many layers you have on. It doesn't matter what you put on to tuck and pull it in and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. None of that matters, because once you're exposed, no matter what you wear, you're naked. And so she comes at a time that's not convenient for most, because she knows she's been exposed and she knows that she's naked and she's ashamed. Sin will make you ashamed. The only thing worse, in my estimation, the only thing worse than self-loathing in the shame of sin is the punishment people who know your sin, the punishment that they inflict upon you. Because, people think that it's their responsibility to punish you for your sin. And so the only thing worse than the self-loathing of sin and the acknowledgement of your own sin is the fact when people punish you because they feel like that's their job. It's interesting to me because people will beat you with their judgment into the place of hiding. And some of you have been beaten into hiding because people have thought that it was their responsibility to punish you when they have no responsibility for that at all. Judgment belongs to God, wholly and completely. Now, here's the challenge for many of us, because many of us, we operate and we live in a place of unforgiveness. Now, you don't just unforgive. You don't just choose not to forgive the person for whatever they've inflicted upon you, whatever they've done, whatever the issue is, whatever the sin is. We choose to live there. What do you mean we choose to live there? You live there because every day you enact punishment upon that person because it's the place in which you live. And you can only enact punishment upon a person every single day. You cannot do that every single day without living in that place. So then you live in a prison too, because you have to stay in that place in order to operate in that mode. You have to stay in that place every day if you're going to punish them every day for the sin that they have done. Here's the thing that boggles me. This boggles me, Aaron. This boggles me, because we want to punish people for their sin, but we want different when it comes to us. Help me understand that. How does that work? How do we want different for us when we sin than we want for the people who have sinned and whose sin we know about? How is that possible? How do we do that? How do we live there? How do we look at ourselves in the mirror and think that we're doing a good deed by punishing them, but when it comes to ourselves, we ask God for grace? We ask God we start quoting scripture. God, your word says, if I confess my sin to you, that you're just and faithful to forgive me and cleanse me from all. God, you said that if I would ask for forgiveness, you'd give it to me. But he also says, if you don't forgive others, you yourself. I'm just trying to help you understand. I ain't talking about nobody. I'm just trying to help you. So it's interesting because Jesus poses a question to her. Jesus says to her, give me a drink. Without any introduction, without any conversation. He doesn't say, hey, what's your name? He doesn't say, hey, how you doing? He doesn't say it's a great day. He doesn't say, I'm glad you showed up because ain't nobody else around. He doesn't say anything, but he simply says to her, give me a drink. Here's my first point. And I want you to grab hold of this. This one might rock you a little bit, but I want you to understand what Jesus is doing. Jesus will ask you for things that he knows you are incapable of giving him. He will ask you for the stuff that should be there that's not. He will ask you for the stuff that you should be able to do, but you can't. Jesus, he doesn't ask you because he doesn't know of your capabilities, but he wants you to realize that you're missing most what he desires. He desires some stuff from you, so he asks you for what should be there, only to get you to recognize that I ain't got it. He'll ask you for stuff that you cannot give him, but you should be able to give him. So he asked this Samaritan woman, and she was like, you must be tripping. Really? You're Jewish, and I'm a Samaritan woman. You don't even ask for that kind of stuff. We don't work like that. We don't deal like that. You ain't my people. I ain't your people. We got our lines of delineation. You stay on your side. I stay on my side. Jesus said, no, but I came to break the barriers. I came to break the excuses. I came to set the captive free. Listen. Have you ever had someone to give you a gift that you didn't want? Have you ever woke up on a Christmas or on a birthday? It's your day. Let's call it birthday. It is your day because the birthday is yours and is yours. And I don't care how many other people share that day with you. It's only you that matters to you because it's your day. But very soon a cloud will come over and embrace your day when someone gives you a gift that you don't want. And it's the kind of gift, Denise, it's the kind of gift that if they would have given 1 ounce of thought to who you were, they would have not purchased that for you. Because they would know this is not what she wants. I've been married for over 30 years. And I know that I cannot buy my wife a vacuum cleaner. I don't care how expensive it is. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care what store I buy it from. I don't care all the attachments that come with it. I don't even think it even matters if I hire somebody to come in and run the vacuum cleaner for her. That is not what my wife wants for her birthday. I'll be saying practical stuff to her. I'll be saying stuff like, babe, that car, your car needs some new tires. Yeah. So I can get you a set of tires for your birthday. She's like, nah, you're going to get me them set of tires, but they ain't going to be for my birthday. I'm just trying to understand some things. But what I'm trying to understand, if they took just one moment to consider you and what it is you want, then they'd understand what it is you desire. If you took one moment to get to know Jesus, you'd understand what he wants from you. He says stuff like this: if you love me, he says, keep my word. If you love me, be obedient. He says stuff, if you just for one moment knew him. That's why he says stuff like, you honor me with your mouth, but your heart is far from me. You say you know me. Well, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we heal in your name? Yeah, but depart from me, you workers of iniquity, for I never knew you. You knew of me. And knowing of me does not equate to a relationship. And there's too many of us that think we have a relationship with him because we know of him. And he said, no, you know of me, but I don't know. See, a relationship is two ways, where I know about you and you know about me. So here we have this woman, and this woman has an issue. And Jesus asks her for something that he knows that she cannot give. In fact, she says to him in her rebuttal, she says, now wait a minute, now let me get this straight. You want me to give you a drink? She says, but how is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. So she understands clearly where she is. She understands clearly what's being asked of her, and she understands clearly who's asking. Because he does not give himself any introduction. He does not introduce himself. He does not give any description as to who he is, what his name is, none of that stuff. But she can tell by just looking at him that he is Jewish. Yeah. So she says to him, how is it that you, being a Jew, would ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? Jesus answered. Jesus, he's so surgical. He is so surgical, because Jesus answered and said to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. The woman said to him, sir, you ain't even got nothing to draw with. It's interesting, Mark, because she begins to ascertain his ability to help her based on what she sees around her. And that's how many of us do. We look around us and we determine what's around us, and we equate that with the ability of God to help us. Because then we look around us to find out what's in close proximity, and can anything around us help us? And if not, then we don't reach up to God, we reach out to people. So she looks. She says, you ain't got nothing to draw with. How you going to give me some water? Where's this water at? How you going to give it to me? And he says, the woman said, sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get this living water? Yes, sir. And then she begins to make comparison. Again, she doesn't know him. So she says to him, are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and livestock? So she begins to equate God's dealings in Jesus, his ability to assist and do what he says he can do and he would do, with who she knows. Because it's apparent that she doesn't know him. But there's too many of us that equate his ability by who we know, because we don't know him. And we'll do stuff. We'll do stuff like calling a friend to see if you can help me. And the truth of the matter is that you've gotten to a place where people have stopped answering your phone calls. See, because you when you call when you want something. That's right. But I don't really hear from you otherwise. And whenever I need something, I can't never get you on the phone. So she says to him, based on what I know and what I see and who I know, I don't think it's possible for you to do what you say you can do. Jesus answered and said, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks from the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. It's interesting because I remember preaching this one day. So I preached this at a church, and I'm saying this for the benefit of Elder Regina, because she knows this. I preached a well, sitting on a well, making a well. A well, sitting on a well, making a well. Because he says, I will create and make a fountain in you, such that there's a fountain that exists on the inside of you, such that it'll be a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. The woman said, sir, give me this water, that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw. Here's my second point. I only got three. Here's my second. She wants the water. She wants the water. But like many of us, we want what Jesus has without wanting him, and for the wrong reasons. We oftentimes cry out to God because we just want to be rescued from a situation and circumstance. We're not trying to understand the circumstance that we're in. We're not trying to understand how we played a part in getting there. We're not trying to discern, God, that you put me here for a reason. Very much like Paul and Silas that find themselves in the prison. We don't understand why we are where we are. We simply just want to get out. And so when he says that I can give you this water, and I know of this water, and it's a water that you won't ever be thirsty again. She says, give me this water. She says, give me this water. Listen to me. She says, give me this water, not simply because I don't ever want to have to thirst again. More importantly, I don't want to have to come to this well no more. Because I don't want to have to deal with people who want to deal with me. I don't want to deal with people who know about me. I don't want to have to deal with people who know my history. I don't want to have to deal with people who know what I've done in times past. I don't want to have to deal with people who are there that I've done some stuff too. I don't want to have to deal with people. I want to see them. I want them to see me. I simply don't want to have to come to this well again. It's interesting how God uses your history. And I'm going to tell you about that in just a minute. But it's interesting how he will use. And so I want to say to you that you can't hide from your history. Because it's your history that qualifies your testimony. If you ain't never been through anything, how can you tell somebody about getting out of something? But see, we don't want the history. We want to talk about the history. We don't want to share the history because we want people to think that we are somebody that we're not. Because we want them to look at us in a certain light. We want them to see us like we've always been saved. We've been saved from the womb. I ain't never sinned. And that's how we want people to see us and perceive us. But the Bible says that all have sinned. That's inclusive of all people to the exclusion of none of the people. So she says she wants this water. She wants this water. Listen, I don't want to come here no more. Every time I come here, people remind me of not just who I am, but also who I'm not. Boy, you ain't nothing like your mama. You ain't nothing like your daddy. Your mama was a praying woman. And look at you out here doing what you're doing like you're doing it. Look at you. You ain't nothing like your people. Look at you. Just pointing the finger. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you. Looking like you're looking. Look at you. Look at you. Pointing at you. Pointing at you with one finger and 4 fingers pointing back at you. Look at you. I don't want to come here no more because I don't want to deal with people knowing what I've done. So take away from me what it is that causes me to have to come here. It's interesting to me because Jesus says something real interesting. He says something. He says, I'll tell you what. I think I can work that out. Only thing you got to do, go get your husband. Yeah, go call your husband and bring him back here. So now you're meddling, Jesus. Now you're meddling. Because see, here's the thing. We want him to do stuff for us, but we don't want him to really meddle with our history. We don't even want him to meddle with our current. So she says very politely, she's like, I ain't married. That ain't the history, though. So we want to give Jesus part of the conversation and not the whole thing. So she just simply says, and she probably said it so sweet. She says, I have no husband. Well, yeah, you're right. You said well. I have no husband. For you have had 5. See, Jesus knows how to get in your stuff. He know how to get right in your Kool-Aid. I'm going to tell you what I used to do with my sisters. My sisters, they would make Kool-Aid and I want something. And see, we grew up, we didn't have all the stuff, all the accoutrements that you all have. We didn't have ketchup and mustard. We can have one or the other. Which one you want? You can't have both. We can have ketchup or mustard. And so, we didn't have all the accoutrements you guys had when I was growing up. My mom did what she could, and God bless her. I love her dearly. And she is a tenacious woman who persevered in challenging, in very, very difficult situations. And so my sister would make Kool-Aid, and because we had to make Kool-Aid by the cup. See, y'all make Kool-Aid by the pitcher, but we ain't have enough sugar to make a whole pitcher of Kool-Aid. Because there ain't enough sugar to go in there because it's going to be bitter. So we make Kool-Aid by the cup. So they make Kool-Aid by the cup, but I wanted some Kool-Aid, so I'll put my finger in the Kool-Aid. Stir it. Because then they wouldn't want it. Yeah, I did. I did it. Because then they didn't want it. They was mad at me, but they weren't going to drink it. Which then allowed me to have the Kool-Aid. Here's the thing. Jesus is putting his finger in your Kool-Aid today. He's putting his finger in your Kool-Aid because it's some stuff that you ain't going to tell him. It's some stuff that you ain't going to share with him. So he's got to get in your Kool-Aid. So she says, I don't have a husband. He says, you're right. You said, well, you don't have a husband. She says, for in fact, you had 5, and the one in whom you have now is not your husband. Yeah. So he begins to deal with her. He begins to deal with her because here's my next point. I ain't got 3. This is my last point, but we got somewhere to go. I want you to understand something. Before he can fill you, he has to fix you. See, if he doesn't fix you, whatever he pours in you is going to leak out. See, there's a crack somewhere. There's an entrance and an exit somewhere. And because you are not whole, he's got to fix you before he can fill you, because if he fills you, you won't be able to contain. Our challenge today, let me tell you our challenge today. Our challenge today is that we can't hold what the Father wants to put in us. Because we're broken and we don't want to do what's necessary to get fixed. We're broken. We are as a marred vase, a marred container. We're broken, but we don't want to put ourselves in the hand of the potter who can fix what's broken. It's interesting to me because you'll never be able to hold what the Father desires to put in you. Now here's the turn. I want you to understand something. Because Jesus doesn't travel all the way to Samaria because she has a sin issue. He travels to Samaria because she's got a thirst issue. And the thirst issue has led to her sin issue. Here's the problem for many of us. Because very much like this woman, we have a thirst issue that oftentimes leads to a sin issue. She's had 5 husbands and a boyfriend. Why? Because she's thirsty. And she's looking for something to satisfy her thirst. And in 5 husbands and a boyfriend, she ain't been able to find it. She's thirsty for acceptance. She's thirsty for love and looking for love in all the wrong places. She's thirsty for validation. She's thirsty for money. Don't act like you don't want his money. Don't act like you in relationship with him because you love him. No, he pay your bills. She's thirsty for money. She's thirsty for revenge. Because I want to show you that left me, that I got somebody better than you. And when you get around him, in view sight, in earshot of the person that you ain't with no more, then you got to act up. You got to act like you're so in love. You got to hug him up real good and hold on to him real tight to make the person who left you, that's your revenge. She's thirsty for revenge. Listen, she's thirsty for someone to make her feel normal. Because I don't fit anywhere. And people don't like me. And I'm different. And I've got things going on that people laugh at. I got a limp that people look at and point the finger and make fun of. I just want to feel normal. I'm thirsty to be made to feel normal. Thirsty. I'm thirsty to be more than I am. because I don't like the me that I am. I see other people and what they have. I want that. And I don't even like me. I'm too dark. I'm too light. I'm too short. I'm too tall. I'm too skinny. I'm too round. I don't like me, and so I'm thirsty to be somebody else. So when that's why when I read the text to you in Exodus, it says, "Don't you make an altar with dressed up stones," because we can play a part real well. Thirsty. I'm thirsty to be someone other than who I am. I'm thirsty to be important to somebody because I don't feel important to anybody. I'm thirsty for position and stature. I am thirsty for stuff in the hopes that stuff will make me feel better. She was thirsty. And she was thirsty because she didn't understand there was some cracks in her pot. And the water that she should have been able to contain, she could not. Here's the issue. Here's the issue. He talks about thirst. In fact, he brings up her 5 husbands, and the one that she's with now is not her husband. Jesus only brings that up one time. It's interesting. And he never brings it up again. What suggests that his objective is not to deal with the sin as much as it is to deal with the thirst. Because if I can fix the thirst, it'll deal with the sin. If I can patch the hole, it'll deal with what's leaking out. So he never deals with that anymore. He brings it up, but he never deals with it. And I'm just curious. Are you thirsty? Yes, sir. And if you are, what are you thirsty for? Sure. See, because his word is a fountain springing up on the inside of us. It's a fountain that never runs dry. It's a fountain whereby we never thirst again. It's a fountain whereby we live and move and have our being in him. It's a fountain that secures us in him. It's a fountain that lets us know that we are important to him. We are so important to him that God, the Father, gave his only begotten Son to die for you and I. That's how important you and I are to him. So it's a well on the inside. It's a fountain on the inside springing up into everlasting water. I want you to understand that it springs up into everlasting life. I want you to understand how important you are to him. You are so important to him that he says, I got to make a detour. And I got to go to Samaria because there's a woman there who's thirsty. There's a woman there that I'm going to meet at the well at the most opportune time. And I know it's going to be the woman that shows up because nobody else shows up at that time. But I need to minister to her. I need to deliver her. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that's interesting to me. Because the Bible says, as the deer pants for the streams of water, so my soul pants for you. My God, my soul thirsts for God, for the living God. Where can I go and meet God? One way that a deer loses water is when he breathes. When a deer breathes, very much like you and I, we sweat. We have pores, and we sweat. And why when you're in the sun and you're working outside and you sweat, it's the encouragement to keep hydrated so that you don't dehydrate because water is escaping your body. Or with a deer, as a deer runs and pants, that means he's breathing hard. And the harder he breathes, the more water he loses. To the point that a deer, very, very, very much like us, we have a process that we enter into when we are dehydrated. We become dehydrated, and then we move over into heat stroke, and we move from there to the body shutting down and eventual death if we're not removed and hydrated, removed from the sun and hydrated. The deer, very much like the deer, because the deer has this skin, this fur on them, and so the deer is running, and the only way the deer can cool itself off is that when it's running, it sweats, and it sweats through its mouth, and it's breathing. The water enters a state of dehydration to the point where if the deer does not get water, it dies. Interesting thing about that is that does not prevent the deer from pursuing God. The deer knows that if I keep running and I don't find him, I'm going to die. But the deer also knows if I don't find him, I'm going to die. Like you and I, as a deer pants for the streams of water, my soul pants for you. As we pursue him, as we go after him, I want you to understand that you can't pursue him and continue living like you live. There's some stuff that has to die. There's some stuff that when you get into his presence, it has to die. Listen to this. Listen to this. If you are thirsty for the wrong thing, it has the propensity to run you to death, trying to find what will not fill you and will not fill the void that's in your life. When you run after the wrong thing, when you run after people, when you run after women, you run after men, you run after stuff, you run after money, you run after house, you run after stuff that can never appease you and fill the voids that are in your life. But you'll waste your life pursuing those things. How much time have you wasted in a relationship that's not going anywhere? How much time have you given to a relationship that time and time again the person has to apologize for the manner in which they have treated you? How many times do they have to apologize so you realize that is just who they are? And it's not going to change. Do you stay or do you go? Do you live or do you die on that mountain? The interesting thing, and this is going to be part 2. This is the interesting thing. When he says all that stuff to her, she brings this up, and it's interesting because why are you bringing this up? She says to him, let me just go to the text. She says, after she says, I perceive your prophet, she says, our fathers worshiped on this mountain. Where did that come from? What are we talking about worship? She interjects that. And so she thinks she's interjecting that. But the Father has a way of moving you where he wants to move you. And so she begins to talk about worship. And Jesus says, I've been waiting for this conversation right here. Because there are some things that she's going to get and understand about worship that she's never understood before. There's some things that you're going to get in this second part about worship that I venture to say you have never, ever understood before. But you're going to have to come back next week to get it.